Chapter 2994 Entering Star Moon Ancient City. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. The young man in the yellow robe released his divine power. Jin Yuan could tell the degree of the awakening of the young man's divine power. It was equivalent to an 80% awakening. Even the two of them can pass. I have awakened 80% of my divine power. That's enough. The yellow-robed young man said coldly. Then, he stepped forward and stepped into the heavenly gate. However, when he stepped into the sky gate, his expression turned serious. Although he had said that the difficulty of the sky gate had been reduced, he didn't dare to relax in the slightest and was on full alert. When he was halfway to the sky gate, he stopped moving, just like Lu Ming. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the yellow-robed young man. If the yellow-robed young man could pass through the sky gate, it meant that the difficulty of the sky gate had indeed been reduced. In the blink of an eye, 2 minutes had passed. Suddenly, the yellow-robed youth's body trembled. How is it? Everyone's heart trembled. Then, the yellow-robed young man let out a blood-curdling screech. His body flew out of the heavenly gate as if he had been hit by a giant beast. He crashed onto the ground and spat out a large mouthful of blood. His aura was extremely weak. Everyone saw that there was a crack between the yellow-robed young man's eyebrows, from which blood was flowing. The yellow-robed young man's eyes were filled with fear. He had almost died. It was obvious that the yellow-robed youth had failed. He had been defeated so badly that he had almost been left behind forever. The difficulty of the Heaven's Gate has not decreased at all. Someone muttered. Everyone's attention returned to Lu Ming and Qiu Yu. The difficulty of the Heaven's Gate was not reduced, but Lu Ming and Qiu Yu took 5 minutes each to pass it. From this, it could be seen that the two of them were terrifyingly talented. In particular, Jin Xing, Jin Yuan, and a few other paragons who had passed through the Heaven's Gate looked at Lu Ming with killing intent and solemnness. Everyone, I'll leave it to you to enter Star Moon Ancient City. Lu Ming must die in the Ancient City. At this moment, a few of the Qin clan's geniuses were secretly sending messages to the other geniuses. He was sending messages to a few geniuses of the aristocratic families that were on good terms with the Qin family. Don't worry. As long as we meet him in Star Moon Ancient City, we won't let him come out alive. The geniuses from the aristocratic families replied. What? At that moment, Lu Ming seemed to have sensed something. He suddenly turned to look in the direction of the Qin family's paragon. Just now, he had felt many killing intents land on him. It seems that other than the Jin family and the Qin family, there are still geniuses from other aristocratic families who want to kill me. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. If they wanted to kill him, they had to be prepared to be killed by him. Following that, more people chose to enter through the door. Choa, let's go. Lu Ming looked at it for a while and lost interest. He held Qiu Yu's hand and walked toward the passage. Yes, let's go too. The experts have all made their moves. There's nothing to see now. It's boring to watch people climb through the dog gate. Let's go. As soon as Lu Ming and Qiu Yu left, the others could not sit still any longer. They moved one after another and walked into the passage. Inside the passageway was not Star Moon Ancient City, but a door of light. A teleportation gate. It seems like this is the gate that leads to the inner part of Star Moon Ancient City. Lu Ming smiled and stepped into the door of light with Qiu Yu. After that, the others stepped into the light door and disappeared. After most of the people had entered the door of light, the people outside also moved. Some of them bowed and crawled through the dog gate with red faces. Then, they ran with their heads down and entered the light gate. After more than half a day, everyone had entered the light door, leaving Bai Li alone outside. All the heaven's favorites from the 4 heavenly king manors are here. I hope they won't suffer too many losses this time. I also hope they will gain something. Bai Li muttered and sat down cross-legged outside. He was going to wait here for 10 years. As soon as Lu Ming stepped through the door of light, he felt as if he was traversing through the void. The next moment, Lu Ming found himself in a canyon. What? Lu Ming frowned because he realized that Qiu Yu was not by his side. Lu Ming rose into the air and looked around. In the end, he realized that he was in a primeval forest and Qiu Yu was nowhere to be seen. I've miscalculated. It turns out that the teleportation to Star Moon Ancient City is random. Lu Ming muttered and could not help but feel worried. Qiu Yu's cultivation was the weakest among the geniuses who entered Star Moon Ancient City this time around. She was only a second-level heavenly god. If he ran into someone with ill intentions, he would probably be in danger. Xueqi is also a person of great fortune. She should be fine. Lu Ming consoled himself. He took out the voice transmission jade talisman and realized that he could not transmit his voice. I'd better cultivate while I look for Xueqi. Lu Ming pondered and then looked around. In the end, he realized that he didn't know where he was at all. He was surrounded by the primeval forest. I didn't expect that there would be a primeval forest in Star Moon Ancient City. Lu Ming muttered. He then chose a random direction and flew forward. The primitive forest was dense with vegetation and dense divine qi, but there was not a single living being. There were no divine beasts or desolate beasts. It was deathly silent. After flying for a few hours, Lu Ming was still in the primeval forest. I'm so unlucky. I was teleported to the wilderness as soon as I came in. Lu Ming pursed his lips and cast the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique. He transformed into a Kuan Peng and flew across the 9 heavens. Just like that, Lu Ming flew for a day before he finally flew out of the primeval forest and saw the buildings. There were many palaces built on a mountain peak ahead. Only after flying in did he realize that these palaces were already very dilapidated, and only ruins were left. However, it was left behind from the early days of the Heaven Palace era after all. Lu Ming was very curious and planned to go in and take a look. Boom! And NBSP at this moment, a boom erupted from the ruins. Divine power surged, and shattered stone flew everywhere. Then, 2 figures flew out from the ruins and fought fiercely in the air. It was obvious that the 2 of them were the geniuses of the Universal Camp, and they were currently engaged in an intense battle. However, when they saw Lu Ming, they were shocked and retreated. It's him! When the 2 of them saw Lu Ming, they immediately recognized him. After all, Lu Ming had passed through the Heaven's Gate previously, and the prodigies of the Universal Camp had remembered him. It's this brat. Previously, the Qin family asked my Sun family to help them kill this person. It seems that my luck is not bad to have met this person the moment I arrived. Furthermore, this person's talent is so high. He might have a great opportunity on him. If I kill him, his opportunity will be mine. One of the big-nosed young men's eyes flickered with killing intent, but at the same time, there was also greed. Wang Tong, let's forget about today's matter. You can go. I won't argue with you. Thinking of this, the big-nosed young man looked at the person who had just fought with him and said, if you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 2996 Statue. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. The big-nosed young man said, asking the person who had just fought with him to leave. The other party sneered, but he still chose to leave in the end. His strength was slightly weaker than the big-nosed young man. If he continued to fight, he would most likely not be his opponent as time went on. He sneered and swept a glance at Lu Ming. Then, he turned into a rainbow and left the place. As soon as the young man left, the big-nosed young man's figure flashed and he appeared beside Lu Ming. A wisp of qi activity locked onto Lu Ming. You want to kill me? Lu Ming said faintly with a faint smile on his face. You're not stupid either. The big-nosed young man's eyes turned cold. A powerful aura burst out and enveloped the area within a radius of 10,000 miles. The big-nosed young man had the cultivation of a 9th-tier celestial deity. Furthermore, his divine power had also awakened to a certain extent, but it was not even 50%. If I remember correctly, I didn't offend you. Tell me, who sent you to kill me? The Jin family or the Qin family? Lu Ming asked. Why are you asking so many questions when you're about to die? The big-nosed young man sneered. Oh, it's fine if you don't want to tell me. Other than the Jin family, there's only the Qin family. But speaking of which, your information isn't that well informed. Are you sure you can kill me? Lu Ming smiled faintly. This big-nosed young man most likely did not know that he had defeated Icehawk. Otherwise, he would not be so confident. What do you mean? The big-nosed young man was slightly stunned. I mean, I'll send you on your way now. Lu Ming's cold voice rang out. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Ming stepped forward. His body swelled up rapidly and he transformed into an ancient god body. At the same time, he activated the battle formula that multiplied his combat power by 4. A violent aura pressed toward the big-nosed young man. This aura! It's impossible. As soon as he sensed Lu Ming's aura, the big-nosed young man's expression changed drastically, and he was horrified. Lu Ming's aura made his heart tremble. Boom! Lu Ming launched an attack. A huge spear ray pressed toward the big-nosed young man. Vanguard Battle Dao. The big-nosed young man roared. A long spear appeared in his hand. He waved the long spear and suddenly, chariots appeared in the sky. There were even warriors on the chariots. The chariot rumbled toward Lu Ming. The big-nosed young man came from the Sun family, a great aristocratic family in the 9 Absolute Heavenly King Mansion. This secret skill was unique to the Sun family, and its power was astonishing. However, when Lu Ming's spear ray pressed down, the chariots shattered one by one. In an instant, all the chariots were shattered. Boom! As the spear radiance pressed down, the big-nosed young man retreated and spat out a large mouthful of blood. How is that possible? How can he be so strong? The big-nosed young man roared in his heart. Indeed, he did not know that Lu Ming had defeated Lang Ying. Therefore, he thought that Lu Ming was merely a 4th-level celestial deity. No matter how talented he was, he would not be that strong. He had never expected that he would be severely injured in just one move. Run! The big-nosed young man immediately turned around and ran. It's too late to escape now. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard. He cast the 9 heavenly Kuanpeng technique and a Kuanpeng was formed. With a flap of its wings, Lu Ming quickly chased after the big-nosed young man. Space breaking. Lu Ming waved his spear and thrust it forward. A ray of spear light shot toward the big-nosed young man at an alarming speed. Seeing that he could not escape, the big-nosed young man roared and brandished his spear to block. However, the result was that he was sent flying again, flying thousands of miles. His arm had exploded, and his injuries were even more serious. The big-nosed young man's combat strength was about the same as Lang Ying's. Back then, Lu Ming had to put in some effort when he was fighting Lang Ying. However, now that Lu Ming was circulating 7 types of divine-grade divine energy in his body, although most of the divine energy was not full, his strength had increased by a notch and he could already crush Lang Ying. Lu Ming, if you dare to kill me, the Sun family will not let you off. The big-nosed young man roared. Kill! Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath on the other party. He launched a storm of attacks. The big-nosed young man barely managed to block a few more moves before he was smacked on the head by Lu Ming's spear and killed. With a wave of his hand, he kept the big-nosed young man's storage ring. In a flash, Lu Ming dashed toward the ruins on the mountain peak. This ruin had collapsed for many years. It was conceivable that in the long past, this mountain must have been covered with a big formation. Otherwise, it was impossible for the ruins to still exist after such a long time. It was likely that the sea had changed into mulberry fields, and nothing was left. Lu Ming looked around and was slightly disappointed as he did not find anything. Lu Ming did not stop. He rose into the air and left the place. Lu Ming did not have any gains for the next day. On this day, Lu Ming was flying when he suddenly felt something unusual in front of him. In front of him, he could feel a faint pressure. In Star Moon Ancient City, he couldn't let go of any abnormalities. Lu Ming's figure moved and flew forward. Not long after, Lu Ming had a discovery. In the wide area in front, there was actually a statue standing there. The statue was huge, at least 100 miles tall, standing in the clouds. However, the statue was headless and only had the lower half of its body. It stood on the ground, and the pressure was coming from it. Moreover, the closer he got to the statue, the greater the pressure became. It pressed down on Lu Ming's body, making it more difficult for him to circulate the divine energy in his body. It was as if he was carrying a 1,000-pound chain. Lu Ming saw a few other figures around the statue. Some people were approaching the statue, while others were standing still. Their bodies were trembling slightly, as if they were resisting the pressure of the statue. He's using the pressure from the statue to polish his foundation. Lu Ming could guess the intention of those people at once. His eyes lit up. Back then, on Magic City Mountain, in order to resist the great formation set up by the 3 great demon masters and more than 2,500 Magic City guards, he had forcibly absorbed the energy of the Star Core to break through to the next realm. Even though he had successfully broken into the 4th-level celestial deity realm, it also brought him hidden dangers. His foundation was unstable. If his foundation was not stable, even if the divine power in his body was full, it would be difficult for him to break through to the next realm. He would have to spend a lot of time to polish his foundation. This statue was exuding a terrifying pressure. Lu Ming could make use of this pressure to polish his foundation. Lu Ming took a step forward and landed 1,000 miles away from the statue. Then, he stepped forward and walked toward the statue. As Lu Ming got closer to the statue, the pressure he felt increased. It was as if he was carrying a divine mountain on his back. It was the same for his Shen power. It was getting harder and harder to circulate. Lu Ming was not shocked. Instead, he was elated. He needed this kind of pressure, the kind of pressure that would affect the divine power. However, the pressure is not enough. Lu Ming muttered and kept walking forward. Soon, he had surpassed the two young men. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Battling the Qin clan's geniuses. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. It's him. The two young men looked at Lu Ming. They had obviously recognized him. However, they only took a casual glance and went back to their cultivation. Not enough, not enough, continue. Lu Ming kept walking forward, getting closer to the statue. Very quickly, Lu Ming was 100 miles away from the statue. At this point, the pressure from the statue was shockingly strong. Lu Ming's body trembled slightly, and he felt that it was difficult to circulate the divine energy in his body. All right, this is the place. Lu Ming sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to circulate the universe thousand Tao scripture to polish his foundation. This cultivation took half a year. In the beginning, it was extremely difficult to circulate divine energy. He could only complete one cycle after a few days. Now, Lu Ming could already complete one cycle in an hour. Compared to before, the level of comfort had increased by tens of times. This kind of pressure is really a good place to polish one's foundation. At this moment, Lu Ming ended his cultivation. In just half a year's time, Lu Ming felt that his foundation had become extremely solid. If he was outside, it would be very difficult to achieve this without a few hundred years. You've saved me a lot of time, but I've spent half a year here. It's time to leave. Lu Ming pondered. I wonder how Star Moon Ancient City is doing in half a year. Lu Ming stood up and retreated, leaving the statue. And NBSP when he was 1,000 li away from the statue, the divine power in his body rumbled and began to move at an astonishing speed. It's so pure and smooth. Lu Ming was overjoyed. After half a year of polishing, his foundation was even more solid than before. There were no obstacles in the circulation of divine power. It was smooth and natural, very rich. Now, as long as the other divine power in his body reached a state of being full, he could start to attempt to charge for 5th-level celestial deity. This half a year has been worth it. Lu Ming smiled and then rose into the air, planning to leave this place. However, at this moment, a few streams of light shot up from the ground not far away. They came from different directions and surrounded Lu Ming. Brat, you finally finished and come out. One of them sneered. The Qin clan. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. These young men were all from the Qin clan. The people of the Qin clan all had a scale between their eyebrows, which was easy to recognize. It was obvious that the people from the Qin family had been waiting for Lu Ming to leave the area where the statue was. They were waiting for him to attack. That was because Lu Ming was under immense pressure at the statue. It was not convenient for them to take action. Kid, we have wasted a few months for you. We want you to know that there is only one consequence for killing the people of the Qin clan. A youth from the Qin clan exuded a powerful aura. Half-step divine king realm. Furthermore, this person's body faintly exuded a primitive and ancient aura. Although this person had not awakened the origin divine power factor, the degree of awakening was not low. His strength was definitely extremely shocking. For the time being, Lu Ming was not a match for such a prodigy. Moreover, the Qin clan had more than one heaven's favorite of this level. There were two. There were also 2 9th-level celestial deity prodigies. A total of 4 people surrounded Lu Ming. Qin Wuyo, you're just courting death. Lu Ming said coldly. At the same time, his eyes darted around, looking for a way to escape. He definitely couldn't force it. The other party's strength was above his, and it would be foolish to force it. Leaving was the best plan. Who do you think you are? You're just a piece of trash from the Qin Heaven Star system. If my Qin clan wants to kill you, well, kill you. You can only obediently wait to be killed. Do you understand? One of the Qin clan's young men shouted coldly with an arrogant look. Lu Ming only smiled faintly and could not be bothered to reply. What's there to say to this kind of person? Kill! Suddenly, Lu Ming let out a roar and threw out a series of punches. 7 9-clawed divine dragons flew out with a roar and pounced on a half-step divine king expert of the Qin family. You're overestimating yourself. Die! The young man from the Qin clan shouted coldly. His body shook and a violent divine power gushed out. Then he punched out, and a huge fist print rushed out, shaking the void. Lu Ming's 7 9-clawed divine dragons crumbled one after another. The man had a proud expression on his face. He was about to say something to show off when he saw Lu Ming's actions and roared, "Be careful!" It turned out that Lu Ming did not continue to attack him. Lu Ming's attack on him was just an illusion. After Lu Ming launched his attack, he retreated rapidly and rushed towards a 9th-level celestial deity youth from the Qin family. At the same time, his body expanded rapidly and he transformed into an ancient god body. Lu Ming's goal was to create a diversion and escape. Boom! Lu Ming shot out his spear at the 9th-level heavenly deity Qin clan's prodigy. 7 injury divine fist. The man reacted and threw a punch, sending a huge fist print at Lu Ming. However, a 9th-level celestial deity who had not awakened the origin divine power factor was not Lu Ming's match at all. The spear's gleam struck and the fist print shattered. The Qin clan's heavens pride expert retreated and coughed out a large mouthful of blood. Lu Ming's figure rushed past him. He then cast the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique and charged forward. Stay here. Another half-step divine king from the Qin family attacked as well when he saw Lu Ming's attack. He threw a punch at Lu Ming. The Wu family's help. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. Lu Ming slashed out a crescent-shaped spear ray, which hit the fist print of the Qin clan's paragon. Boom! A deafening boom erupted. The crescent-shaped spear radiance shook violently and then shattered. A powerful force rushed toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body trembled and he retreated rapidly. The qi and blood in his body churned, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. The divine power of a half-step divine king was already extremely dense. In addition to the 60 to 70% of the divine power that had been awakened, the power was too shocking. Lu Ming, who had gathered the power of 7 types of divine-grade divine power, could not withstand it. However, the youth from the Qin family was even more shocked. What's going on with this kid? A 4th-level celestial deity being so strong, simply monstrous. And his Shin power feels impure, but why is it so powerful? The Qin clan's young man had many thoughts in his mind. He was extremely puzzled. He could clearly feel that Lu Ming's divine power was mixed and impure. It seemed to be caused by an unstable foundation. However, its power was shockingly strong. A 4th-level heavenly deity who had not awakened the origin divine power factor yet was about to be able to contend with his divine power. He had also thought that Lu Ming's divine power was not mixed and impure. Instead, it contained 7 different types of divine power. After exchanging a move, Lu Ming turned around and continued to fly. You can't escape. The 2 young men from the Qin clan continued to chase after him. At this moment, Lu Ming noticed a mountain peak in front of him. There were a few young men on the peak who seemed to be resting. That is, the Wu clan's prodigy. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The few youths on the mountain peak were clearly the Wu family's prodigies. Lu Ming saw Wu Ming and Wu Yu among them. At that moment, Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the rest also saw Lu Ming. This ancient god body. It's brother Lu Ming. That's the Qin family. Damn it! Brothers, attack. Wu Ming and Wu Yu immediately recognized Lu Ming. They also noticed the Qin family's prodigy. They did not need to think to know what was going on. They immediately roared. Leave it to us. On the mountain peak, 2 of the Wu family's heaven's favorites flew into the air and charged towards the Qin family's heaven's favorites like 2 shooting stars. 2 half-step divine kings joining hands to deal with a 4th-level heavenly deity. Your Qin family is really shameless. Let us be your opponents. A young man from the Wu family sneered. He slashed out with his sword from a distance. Baz! A ray of sword light crossed thousands of miles and slashed at a Qin family youth. The sword light was bright and its power was overbearing. The youth from the Qin family had no choice but to stop and block. Boom! He punched out and blocked the sword light. His body also stopped. At the same time, the other genius of the Wu family also made his move and blocked the other young man from the Qin family. The two Qin clan's elites were both blocked. This is a matter of my Qin clan. This man killed our Qin clan's genius. Is your Wu clan trying to meddle in our business? A young man from the Qin clan said coldly. So what if I'm a busybody? Lu Ming is a friend of the Wu family. If you want to kill him, it's the same as killing a member of the Wu family. One of the geniuses from the Wu family chuckled. In the 9 absolute heavenly king mansion, the Wu family's strength was not any weaker than the Qin family, so there was no need to fear the Qin family. You guys. The two young men from the Qin clan had unsightly expressions. The two geniuses from the Wu family were no weaker than him. One of them had even stepped through the earth gate. His talent was shocking, and his combat strength was above theirs. They knew that with the Wu family's help, they would not be able to kill Lu Ming today. Humph, kid, you're lucky. I hope you can keep going this far. The next time we meet will be the day of your death. One of the Qin family's young men looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. This sentence is exactly what I wanted to say to you. The next time we meet will be the day you die. Lu Ming responded indifferently. He would remember the enmity of being hunted down today. Hee, just you? A young man from the Qin family laughed disdainfully before turning around and leaving. Very quickly, the two youths from the Qin clan disappeared. Brother Lu, are you all right? Wu Yu and Wu Ming flew over. Lu Ming laughed like an ordinary person and said, I'm fine. Thank you for saving me this time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to escape. If he had not encountered the Wu family's Heaven's Pride expert this time, he would have had to risk his life. The only way for him to go all out was to burn his ancient god heart. After burning his ancient god heart, he would definitely be able to kill the two Qin clan geniuses. However, the losses would be too great. It was not worth burning the ancient god heart for two Qin family members. Brother Lu, you're too polite. Since we're friends, we can't just sit by and do nothing. One of the Wu family's elites laughed. The other two Heaven's Pride experts were Wu Zixiong and Wu Su. Both of them were at the half-step divine king realm. Among them, Wu Zixiong's talent was even stronger. He had already awakened 90% of his divine power, and was not far from completely awakening the origin divine power factor. He had already passed through the Earth's gate before. Of course, it seemed like there was not much difference between 90% and completely awakening the origin divine power factor. However, it was shockingly difficult to achieve. 90% of the people would be stuck, and it would be difficult for them to achieve the final breakthrough. Lu Ming smiled and did not say much. There were no words to thank him for his great kindness. He just had to remember it in his heart. Wait, something was wrong. Lu Ming suddenly thought of a problem. Brothers Wu, how did you all get together? Did you all just happen to be teleported here together? Lu Ming asked. No, we were separated when we were teleported here. We only gathered together after communicating with each other through the Jade Talisman. Wu Zixiong said. Jade Voice Transmission Talisman? Could it be that the Jade Voice Transmission Talisman can be used here? Lu Ming said hurriedly. Of course it can be used. Why? Brother Lu, what's the matter? Wu Ming asked. Lu Ming's face darkened and a look of worry flashed in his eyes. Not long after he entered, he sent a voice transmission to Xueqi. However, the voice transmission Jade Talisman could not be used. He thought that the voice transmission Jade Talisman could not be used here. Immediately, Lu Ming took out his voice transmission Jade Talisman and sent a voice transmission to Xueqi. However, the result was that he still could not send a voice transmission. What's going on? Lu Ming's heart sank and his expression turned uglier. Brother Lu, what's wrong? Wu Ming and the others also noticed that something was amiss and asked. Why can't my voice transmission Jade Talisman be transmitted out? Lu Ming told her about him sending a voice transmission to Xueqi. It can't be spread? Brother Lu, pass it on to me. Wu Ming said. Lu Ming quickly sent a voice transmission to Wu Ming. However, it was unimpeded. Lu Ming's expression turned even uglier. Could it be that something had really happened to Xueqi? Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly. Brother Lu, you don't have to worry. In Star Moon Ancient City, voice transmission is indeed suppressed. If the distance is too far, it's normal that the voice can't be transmitted out. Furthermore, if Lady Xueqi is in some isolated place, it's possible that she can't get out. Wu Zixiong consoled Lu Ming. Chapter 2998 Stunning Beauty. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. Wu Zixiong consoled Lu Ming, but Lu Ming's heart was still heavy and he was worried. I hope Xueqi is blessed by the heavens. Lu Ming could only comfort himself in this way. Brothers Wu, if you meet Xueqi in the future, can you help me look after her? Lu Ming said. Brother Lu, you're being too polite. I'll definitely find some friends to ask around for Lady Qiyu's whereabouts. Wu Zixiong said. Thank you, Brother Wu. Lu Ming cupped his fists. By the way, Brother Lu, where are you going next? Wu Zixiong asked again. I've heard that there are some forbidden areas in Star Moon Ancient City. One of them is the land of extreme coldness, and there are extreme cold treasures there. I want to try my luck there. Lu Ming said. Go to the forbidden area? Wu Zixiong's expression slightly congealed, saying, Brother Lu, some of the forbidden areas in Star Moon Ancient City are very dangerous. If you want to go, you must be careful. Thank you, Brother Wu. I will be careful. Lu Ming said with a smile. Brother Lu, keep going north and you'll find the frigid forbidden land. I have a simple map here. You might need it. With that, Wu Zixiong took out a map and passed it to Lu Ming. A map. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. He opened it and took a look. There were some circuits and some special places that were all marked. To the north from here, there was a forbidden area known as the Cold Nether Forbidden Area. It was filled with cold nether chi and was extremely dangerous. This map was drawn by the Wu clan's geniuses when they entered Star Moon City. It's relatively simple, but it can be used. Wu Zixiong said. You gave me the map, then you guys. Lu Ming hesitated. Haha, we naturally have a backup. Wu Zixiong laughed. Lu Ming patted his head. He was worried about Xueqi and was a little distracted. He was really confused. Of course, the Wu family had a backup of such a map. Lu Ming, I'll take my leave then. See you another day. Lu Ming cupped his fists. Take care. Wu Ming and the others also cupped their fists. Then, Lu Ming turned and left, heading north. A few hours later, Lu Ming found a hidden place. He sat cross-legged and consumed a divine healing pill to start healing. Previously, he had taken a blow from the Qin clan's heaven's favorite and was heavily injured. After a few days, Lu Ming had recovered to his peak state. He then left the place and continued to head north. Star Moon Ancient City was like a world. It was huge and boundless. Lu Ming flew for a few days before he finally arrived at his destination, the Cold Nether Forbidden Grounds. The Cold Nether Forbidden Ground was filled with the chi of the Cold Nether, which was extremely and cold. It was said that someone had once obtained a treasure of extreme and extreme cold from the Cold Nether Forbidden Grounds. Lu Ming was looking for such a treasure to speed up the refinement of the star core and to fill up the 5 types of divine-grade divine energy in his body as soon as possible. Then, he would break through to the next realm. Looking from afar, not even a blade of grass grew in the Cold Nether Forbidden Grounds, and there was a grey mist floating in the air. This grey mist was the chi of the Cold Nether. Buzz! At this moment, a stream of light flew over from not far away. The next moment, the light faded and a figure appeared in the sky. It was a woman. She was tall and had perfect curves. Her skin was as white as snow and she had a peerless face. What a beautiful woman! Even though Lu Ming had seen all kinds of beautiful women, including Xian Yanqing and Xueqi, he could not help but admire them. This woman's beauty was not inferior to Xueqi, Xian Yanqing, Xian Yanjuan, and the others. At this moment, the Absolute Beauty also saw Lu Ming. It's you? You are Lu Ming? The Absolute Beauty spoke. Her voice was clear and pleasant to the ears, but it was filled with a faint coldness. That's right, I'm Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. Very good. The Absolute Beauty nodded, and a cold-killing intent suddenly emanated from her body. Then go to hell, die. The Absolute Beauty shouted as she took a step forward and charged at Lu Ming. At the same time, a terrifying sword light burst out from her hand and slashed at Lu Ming. Xueqi. Lu Ming cursed. He did not expect that this beautiful woman would suddenly attack him. However, Lu Ming was already on his guard when he sensed the killing intent from the absolute beauty. As soon as she made her move, Lu Ming activated the battle character formula that increased his combat power by 4 times. Lu Ming waved his long spear and swept it out. Clang! The sword light slashed at Lu Ming's long spear, causing it to shake violently. Wisps of terrifying sword intent passed through the long spear and rushed toward Lu Ming. Sword slashes appeared on Lu Ming's arm, and blood was flowing out. As for Lu Ming himself, he retreated rapidly into the cold nether forbidden grounds. As soon as he entered the cold nether forbidden grounds and came into contact with the cold nether energy, a chill instantly spread through Lu Ming's body, causing him to shiver. With a single thought, 9 ice chains flew out and wrapped around Lu Ming's body, blocking the chill in the surroundings. This woman has such shocking strength. Lu Ming's gaze was fixed on the beautiful woman. This woman's cultivation was at least a half-step divine king. As for the extent of her awakened divine power, Lu Ming had no idea. However, Lu Ming was certain that this lattice abilities were definitely above the 2 half-step divine king geniuses of the Qin clan. I don't know you, why do you want to kill me? Did the Jin family or the Qin family send you? Lu Ming said coldly. He didn't know this woman at all, but she wanted to kill him the moment they met. There was only one explanation, and that was that the Jin and Qin families had asked her to kill him, just like the big-nosed young man from before. What Jin and Qin clan? It has nothing to do with me. I want to kill you. Dang! The absolute beauty said coldly. The aura on her body grew stronger. She took a step forward and rushed into the land of the cold nether. Another sword light burst out and slashed at Lu Ming. Ancient God Body! Ancient God Body! Lu Ming roared. He activated his ancient god body and turned into a green-armored ancient god. He waved his spear and a crescent-shaped spear light slashed out, blocking the opponent's attack. You have some strength. The absolute beauty clearly did not expect Lu Ming to be able to block her attack. She was slightly stunned and her gaze turned even colder. Boom! A terrifying aura rushed out of the beautiful woman's body. It was filled with an ancient aura. Nest, this is the Origin Divine Power Factor. This B*TCH has awakened the Origin Divine Power Factor. Lu Ming was really shocked. A half-step Divine King who had awakened the Origin Divine Power Factor would be able to pass through the Heaven Gate. Previously, there were a total of 4 people from the Universal Camp who had revealed their cultivation base. Now, it seemed like there was someone who had hidden her cultivation base and strength, and that person was this woman. Or perhaps, this woman had entered Star Moon Ancient City after Lu Ming had. No matter what, this level of ability was definitely not something that Lu Ming could withstand. The difference in combat strength was too great. Let's go. Without thinking, Lu Ming turned and left, rushing toward the depths of the land of the cold nether. Chapter 3000 Crazy Woman. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. Lu Ming rushed into the cold nether forbidden ground, hoping to use the cold air in the forbidden ground to shake off the beautiful woman. However, the absolute Bowtie's killing intent towards him was very strong, and she had no intention of letting him go. Lu Ming die! The absolute beauty shouted. In a flash, she also rushed into the land of the cold nether and chased after Lu Ming. However, after the beautiful woman entered the land of cold nether, her body paused slightly, and her speed slowed down slightly. The chi of the cold nether will affect him. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The Hades chi was extremely cold and the temperature was extremely low. Lu Ming was able to withstand the Hades chi without being affected because he had cultivated the lunar divine technique and had the lunar divine energy in his body. However, the divine power that the beautiful woman cultivated clearly had nothing to do with cold power, so she needed to circulate divine power to block the cold energy. Her speed was naturally affected. Even so, the absolute Bowtie's speed was still faster than Lu Ming's. The distance between them was constantly closing. You can't escape. The beautiful woman's eyes were filled with murderous intent. She looked as if she could not wait to cut Lu Ming into 8 pieces. What benefits did the Jin and Qin families give you to kill me? I can give you double the benefits. Lu Ming roared. What bullshit T Jin and Qin families? What right do they have to ask me to kill you? The Absolute Beauty said coldly. Not the Jin and Qin families? Which force was it? Is it the force that has been colluding with the Dark Ice clan? Lu Ming's heart suddenly moved and he immediately shouted, I know who you are. The person behind you has colluded with the Dark Ice clan to steal the 9 Absolute Divine Crystal. How dare you? This is a crime that will result in your entire family being exterminated. Lu Ming roared loudly, trying to scare the other party. Nonsense. If I want to kill you, it has nothing to do with anyone else. The Absolute Beauty sneered coldly and slashed out a beam of sword chi, almost hitting Lu Ming. Lu Ming was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. It has nothing to do with anyone else, and you want to kill me? This time, Lu Ming was really dumbfounded. When did he offend this crazy woman? Young lady, if I remember correctly, I have never offended you. Could it be that I was drunk and did you? No, if you really have me, why don't I feel anything? Lu Ming shouted and was even more puzzled. Pervert, die! Hearing Lu Ming's words, the Absolute Beauty was even more furious. She shouted and a few sword lights slashed at Lu Ming's face. Lu Ming hurriedly cast the 9 heavenly Kuan-Peng technique to dodge, but his shoulder was still grazed by a sword gleam. The green scales were cut open and blood flowed out. Lu Ming was so frightened that he shivered. His opponent was a half-step Divine King and had awakened the Origin Divine Power Factor. His attack was terrifyingly sharp and his green scale armor could not block it at all. How did I become a perverted bandit again? Lu Ming was shocked and furious. If not for the fact that he was not the other party's match, he would definitely take the other party down and let him know what a perverted bandit was. But now, Lu Ming could only run for his life. He specifically ran towards places with dense frosty chi and used the 9 heavenly Kuan-Peng technique to the extreme. Even so, it was still very dangerous, and not long after, several wounds appeared on his body. This crazy woman, why is she chasing me? Lu Ming was really speechless. His eyes were flashing with ruthlessness. He was thinking quickly in his heart, trying to come up with a plan to kill the other party. Lu Ming would not show mercy just because the other party was a beautiful woman. Rustle. Rustle. At this moment, Lu Ming heard a rustling sound in front of him. There's living being here. Lu Ming was not shocked. Instead, he was happy. The appearance of living creatures at this moment was beneficial to Lu Ming. Buzz! Lu Ming's figure flashed and he rushed towards the source of the sound. Not long after, a huge creature appeared in front of Lu Ming. It was a huge snow-white centipede that was at least 100 meters long. It crawled on the mountain. At that moment, the giant centipede pounced at Lu Ming the moment it saw him. CSI. Before the giant centipede even reached him, it opened its mouth and spat out a thick gray mist. At the same time, a terrifying chill gushed toward Lu Ming. Even Lu Ming's body stiffened. It was also the frosty chi, but the temperature was even lower. It was as if the space had frozen. Lu Ming circulated the divine power of the moon with all his might. At the same time, he used the 9 ice chains to protect himself and blocked the invasion of the cold air. At the same time, Lu Ming dodged the giant centipede's attack in a flash. However, the giant centipede twisted its body and its row of sharp claws slashed at Lu Ming like a divine knife. Lu Ming was shocked and raised his spear to block it. Clang! Lu Ming's body shook violently and he was sent flying. However, at this time, the beautiful woman had also caught up. She was also enveloped by the giant centipede's cold air. Her body stiffened, and her speed suddenly decreased. However, she had awakened the Origin Divine Power Factor. She circulated her divine power and still blocked the attack of the cold air. Buzz! The giant centipede had forced Lu Ming to retreat with one attack. When it saw the beautiful woman, it immediately let out a screech. Its body bounced and it charged at the beautiful woman again. Get lost! The Absolute Beauty was very domineering. Sword light burst out and cut the giant centipede's body. The giant centipede was powerful. It was a half-step divine king. With the armor it was wearing, it had a strong defense. However, it still couldn't withstand the attack from the beautiful woman. The sword light cut through the centipede's armor and left a deep wound. This crazy woman's strength is amazing. Lu Ming was secretly shocked. If such an attack landed on him, he would probably be cut in half. See that? The giant centipede was injured and seemed to have fallen into a state of fury. It screamed crazily and made a sharp sound. It kept spewing out terrifying cold air towards the beautiful woman. The giant centipede only had eyes for the beautiful woman. It could not be bothered with Lu Ming. Wherever the cold air passed, even the cold nether energy floating in the air was frozen. It was clear how terrifying the cold air was. The absolute beauty had to concentrate on defending. At the same time, she slashed out sword lights towards the giant centipede. The two of them started fighting. How could Lu Ming miss such an opportunity? He executed the 9 heavenly Kuan-Pang technique to the extreme, transformed into a Kuan-Pang, and left the place in a flash. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming had gone far away. I've finally gotten rid of this crazy woman. Who is this crazy woman? Did the Qin and Jin families send people to kill me, or did they collude with the Dark Ice Clan to kill me? Lu Ming guessed in his heart. Not long after, Lu Ming was hundreds of thousands of miles deep into the land of the cold nether. The Hellfrost chi here was getting thicker and thicker. Occasionally, Lu Ming would discover some living creatures. However, these living beings were all extremely terrifying. The weakest of them was a 9th-level heavenly god, while the majority of them were half-step divine kings. Wife. You're here, please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. This kind of living being was of the cold attribute and was like a fish in water in the chi of the cold underworld. Moreover, in such an environment, this kind of creature's strength could be exerted to 120%, which was much stronger than the outside world. As for the others, if they did not control the divine-grade divine power of the cold attribute, their strength would be greatly reduced when they entered this place. No wonder it was called a forbidden area. It was indeed very dangerous for ordinary geniuses to enter. Boom! Lu Ming was flying when the mountains and the ground suddenly shook. Then, Lu Ming saw an ice mountain flying over from a distance and crashing down on him. Nest! Lu Ming was shocked and dodged quickly. He retreated 100 miles in an instant to avoid the ice mountain. Boom! It was really an ice mountain with an energy level of 1,000 meters. It crashed heavily in front of Lu Ming and the ground shook continuously. And NBSP hoo-hoo. A whistling sound was heard in the air, and then a large black shadow was cast down from the sky. More icebergs came crashing toward Lu Ming. There was not only one but several of them in succession. What's going on? Lu Ming was speechless. He retreated and dodged continuously. However, the icebergs continued to smash down, and finally, there was one that Lu Ming could not avoid. Moon slaying. Lu Ming held the spear with both hands and swung it down. Boom! The spear radiance struck the ice mountain, causing a violent boom. The ice mountain shattered, and Lu Ming was sent flying by a terrifying force. After retreating 100 miles, his chi and blood were in turmoil. What a terrifying power! What is it? Lu Ming stared ahead. And NBSP, he was maintaining his ancient god body, so his strength was astonishing, but he had still almost been injured. And NBSP roar. At this moment, a roar came from the distance. Then, a huge creature rushed over. That's, Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. This time, it was not an iceberg but a giant ape that was charging at him. This giant ape was huge and was thousands of meters tall. It was even bigger than the ice mountain from before. Lu Ming knew that the giant ape was the one who threw the icebergs. Boom! The giant ape stepped on an ice mountain, causing it to explode. Ice shards flew in all directions, and the ground shook violently. A ferocious aura gushed out and surged towards Lu Ming. A pair of huge eyes stared at Lu Ming, filled with killing intent. Roar! The giant ape bellowed in rage and stomped on the ground, blasting a huge pit in the ground. Its huge body pounced toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming had transformed into an ancient god and was more than 200 meters tall. However, in front of the giant ape, he was not even an infant. A fist larger than a mountain came crashing toward Lu Ming, bringing with it a terrifying gust of wind. Retreat, retreat. Lu Ming did not dare to take it head-on and retreated rapidly. However, the opponent's fist force was too powerful. The air kept exploding and Lu Ming's speed was greatly affected. There was no other way. In the end, Lu Ming could only take it head-on. Star explosion. Lu Ming cast his strongest move. A huge spear ray burst out and stabbed at the giant ape. When the spear's radiance was about to approach the giant ape, it exploded with a loud bang. Boom! The force spread in all directions, But Lu Ming felt a terrifying force surging towards him. Lu Ming's body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Retreat! Lu Ming made use of this force to retreat rapidly. Coupled with the speed of the 9 heavenly Kuan-Pang technique, he retreated tens of thousands of miles in an instant. Then, Lu Ming turned around and dashed backward rapidly. Roar! The giant ape roared angrily and chased after Lu Ming. This giant ape has such terrifying strength. I'm afraid that it has also awakened a power similar to the origin divine power factor in its body. Lu Ming pondered. The living beings now could be considered the descendants of the original gods. More or less, they all had a trace of the bloodline of the original gods. It was the same even for those wild beasts and divine beasts. Therefore, many dire beasts and vicious beasts would awaken powers similar to the origin divine power factor, which was very terrifying. It was obvious that this giant ape had awakened a similar power. Its abilities were very shocking. Lu Ming was no match for it at all. He was not its match even when he used the supernova and was injured in an instant. Lu Ming transformed into a Kuan-Ping and flew at high speed. However, the giant ape's speed was extremely shocking and it chased closely after Lu Ming. Very quickly, a few minutes passed. Whoosh! Suddenly, Lu Ming saw a sword light coming at him at high speed. It's her! Lu Ming's gaze flickered. The owner of the sword gleam was the beautiful woman who had chased after Lu Ming previously. Seeing this woman, Lu Ming was not shocked. Instead, he was overjoyed. Without thinking, he immediately rushed toward the beautiful woman. At the next moment, the absolute beauty also saw Lu Ming. When she saw Lu Ming rushing toward her instead, she could not help but be stunned. She did not quite understand why Lu Ming suddenly rushed toward her. However, she immediately understood. It was because she saw the giant ape. She understood that Lu Ming wanted to use her to fight against the giant ape. However, was this possible? The beautiful woman's eyes were filled with cold light. She was about to make a move when she and the giant ape attacked from the front and back, killing Lu Ming. Honey, it's great that you're here. Let's kill that giant ape together. Lu Ming shouted. What? Wife? The absolute beauty was stunned again. The next moment, she reacted and screamed. You, shameless! However, Lu Ming was already not far away from the absolute beauty. Roar! The giant ape roared. It stretched out a huge palm and grabbed at the ground. A huge ice mountain was conjured. With a wave of its hand, the huge ice mountain smashed towards Lu Ming, shrouding the beautiful woman within. Honey, help! Lu Ming shouted and dodged to the left and right, avoiding the iceberg. This was Lu Ming's plan. This giant ape had such a high cultivation level, so it must be very intelligent. It would definitely be able to understand what they were saying. Therefore, when Lu Ming called out wife, the giant ape would definitely mistake the beautiful woman for Lu Ming's gang. Naturally, its attack would also envelop the beautiful woman. Obviously, Lu Ming's plan had succeeded. Being enveloped by the ice mountain, the absolute beauty could only fight back. A bright sword light burst out and cut the ice mountain in half. This crazy woman is really powerful. Lu Ming thought to himself. Just now, he had experienced the terror of the giant ape. However, the absolute beauty had split the ice mountain with a single sword strike. Her strength was shocking. The giant ape's gaze also turned to the absolute beauty. The absolute beauty gave it a strong pressure, making it instinctively feel a trace of danger. Therefore, the giant ape roared and pounced on the beautiful woman, leaving Lu Ming behind. To it, Lu Ming was not dangerous. On the contrary, the beautiful woman was. Of course, it had to eliminate the danger first. The mountain-like fist was aimed at the beautiful woman, and she could only counterattack. Buzz! The sound of the sword resounded through the 9 heavens as a glass-like sword light, over 10,000 meters long, slashed towards the giant ape. Boom! Boom! The two of them engaged in a great battle. The entire place was in chaos and razed to the ground. Supreme Cold Treasure, please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. Good lord, this strength is even stronger than the Night Demon King. Lu Ming was speechless as he watched the battle between the Absolute Beauty and the giant ape. Both the Absolute Beauty and the giant ape had yet to reach the Divine King realm, but their battle prowess was definitely at the Divine King realm. An ordinary one-stage Divine King like the Night Demon King was most likely not that powerful. This was a heaven's favorite who could fight across a large realm. Wife, help your husband block this beast first. Your husband will go and find someone to help. Naturally, Lu Ming would not miss such a good opportunity. After leaving behind those words, he disappeared in a flash. Despicable, shameless, you're courting death. The beautiful woman shouted angrily. She was so angry that she almost vomited blood. Her beautiful face was flushed red. She secretly swore that the next time she saw Lu Ming, she would definitely cut him into pieces to vent her hatred. At the thought that Lu Ming actually called her his wife, she gnashed her teeth in hatred. Could it be that this guy knows? Impossible. Even if I knew, I would still kill him. The absolute beauty gritted her teeth and focused on dealing with the giant ape in front of her. Lu Ming was running at full speed. It did not take long for him to transform into his human form. He had been using the ancient god body all this while, and it was very draining on him. After transforming into his human form, Lu Ming flew for a while and found a hidden ice cave. He flew in. After taking a closer look, he realized that there were no other living beings in the ice cave. Lu Ming moved a piece of ice and blocked the ice cave. Then, he sat cross-legged and circulated the universe thousand Tao scripture to recover. After a few days, Lu Ming's divine power and physical strength had recovered to their peak. It's a pity that Xueqi can't come in here. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in such a sorry state. Lu Ming sighed. No one below the God King level could enter Star Moon Ancient City. Xueqi was a metallic life form, so it naturally couldn't enter either. Otherwise, with Xueqi's strength, it could easily suppress existences like the Absolute Beauty and the giant ape. I must quickly find the treasure of Jihan and improve my strength. Lu Ming secretly gritted his teeth. During this period of time, he was repeatedly hunted down, and he really had a stomach full of pent-up anger. He got up and left the ice cave. Lu Ming continued to venture deeper into the nether cold land. Lu Ming, the cold qi is extremely dense in the 8,000-mile area ahead. There might be a treasure of extreme cold. The voice of the quantity formula sounded. The quantity formula was extremely sensitive to energy fluctuations. Lu Ming asked the quantity formula to help him search for treasures with cold energy. 8,000 miles ahead. Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he flew forward. Not long after, an ice lake appeared in front of them. This ice lake wasn't big, but the cold air was shockingly dense. It was many times denser than other places. Lu Ming, the source of the cold qi is under the lake. However, I'm afraid that there's a creature guarding the lake. The quantity formula said. There's a living creature guarding it. What's its cultivation level? Lu Ming asked. I don't know about this. You can go down and find it yourself. The quantity formula said. Lu Ming was speechless. In the end, he still decided to take a look. Since he had already come this far, it would be a pity if he didn't explore. With a plop, Lu Ming rushed into the ice lake. Not long after. Walala! The frozen lake churned violently, stirring up thousands of waves. A white python could be seen rolling in the middle. At the same time, rays of spear light burst out from the ice lake. They were extremely bright. A few moments passed. Buzz! A figure dashed out of the frozen lake. It was Lu Ming. After Lu Ming rushed out, he cast the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique and transformed into a 9 heavenly Kuan Peng, leaving the place at great speed. Voila! A 1,000-meter-long python rushed out of the ice lake. It looked up to the sky and roared, but it didn't pursue in the end. It swam around the ice lake for a while before returning to the lake. 10,000 miles away from the frozen lake, Lu Ming sat on an ice seal. He opened his palm and there was a crystal-like stone the size of a dragon's eye on it. It exuded a shocking cold air. This was the treasure that Lu Ming had brought out from the ice lake. Old Liang, how is this ice jade crystal? How much energy can it help you refine from the star core? Lu Ming asked in anticipation. Not much. The quantity formula only had 2 words. Not much. Lu Ming was a little disappointed. Although this ice jade crystal is a treasure of the extreme cold attribute, it's still not as good as the ice jade heart or the ball of cold liquid you obtained before. It's only stronger than the cold moonstone, and it's too small. The quantity formula explained. It seems that I have to continue looking for it. Forget it, you can absorb this ice jade crystal first. I will continue to look for other cold attribute treasures, Lu Ming said. He then let the quantity formula absorb the ice jade crystal. For the next half a month, Lu Ming went around the cold nether forbidden grounds in search of supreme cold treasures. He found a total of 3, but unfortunately, they weren't of particularly high level. They were all treasures of the same level as the ice jade crystal, but it was better than nothing. One day, Lu Ming was walking in an ice valley. The quantity formula told him that the energy fluctuation of the cold air in this ice valley was also very abnormal and very dense. After moving forward for a while, there was nothing unusual. Lu Ming was rather surprised that there were no living creatures guarding this place. This is a 9-petaled ice lotus. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes lit up. At the end of the ice valley, a lotus flower grew on a wall. It was crystal clear like jade and emitted a strong chill. This was the first time Lu Ming had seen a plant in the cold nether forbidden grounds. Moreover, it was a cold attribute divine medicine. The 9-petaled ice lotus had a total of 9 petals, which was very different from other lotus flowers. However, Lu Ming had once read in an ancient book that the 9-petaled ice lotus was the best among the cold attribute divine herbs. Lu Ming was overjoyed. This 9-petaled ice lotus was definitely a treasure of the cold attribute that was better than the ice jade crystal. After absorbing it with the quantity formula, it would definitely help him refine a lot of energy from the star core. Lu Ming's figure flashed as he stepped forward. He used his divine power to form a large hand and picked the 9-petaled ice lotus. And NBSP, but at this moment, several figures appeared above the ice valley. There were a total of 5 young people, both men and women, all wearing white robes. As soon as they appeared, their eyes fell on the 9-petaled ice lotus in Lu Ming's hand. "Kid, hand over the 9-petaled ice lotus." One of the young men shouted coldly, and an icy cold aura enveloped Lu Ming. "I found it first, so why should I hand it over to you?" Lu Ming said indifferently. "You discovered it first. What a joke. We discovered this 9-petaled ice lotus a long time ago. Previously, there were dire beasts guarding this place, and we lured them away. That's how you managed to get your way. Do you understand?" A young man with snow-white hair said coldly. "Attract the desolate beasts?" Lu Ming was stunned. However, the next moment, he knew that the other party was lying. The other party's reason did not seem to have any problems, but upon careful thought, it was full of loopholes. There were 5 people on the other side. Was there a need for 5 people to act together to attract the dire beasts? You are not qualified to kill him. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. There were a total of 5 people on the other side. There was no need for all 5 of them to work together to attract the desolate beasts. As long as a few of them attracted the desolate beasts, the other few could easily pick the 9-petal ice lotus. Who would be so foolish to attract the dire beasts together and leave the treasures here? Therefore, Lu Ming knew that the other party was lying after some thought. Sneering coldly, Lu Ming kept the 9-petaled ice lotus in his storage ring. "Kid, it seems like you're not going to hand it over?" The white-haired youth's eyes were cold, and the coldness on his body became stronger and stronger. The other party clearly also cultivated cold attribute divine-grade divine power, so he was not afraid of the cold nether energy here. "Since I've already obtained it, how can I hand it over?" Lu Ming smiled faintly. Very good, very good." The white-haired youth nodded. "Lu Ming, your talent is not bad. You've crossed the heavenly gates. However, your cultivation is only at the 4th level celestial deity realm. Do you think you can swallow the 9-petal ice lotus in front of us with such a cultivation?" After saying that, the white-haired young man's aura completely bloomed. Half-step divine king. The white-haired young man was a half-step divine king. However, Lu Ming could tell at a glance that the other party had not awakened the divine power factor. At the same time, the rest of them moved in a flash and surrounded Lu Ming, each of them exuding a powerful aura. Another half-step divine king. The other 3 were also 9th-level celestial deity existences. However, no one had awakened the origin divine power factor. The origin divine power factor was not that easy to awaken. There were so many prodigies below the divine king realm in the Star Battalion, but only 4 of them had passed the heavenly gate. Including the beautiful lady, there were only 5 of them. Naturally, he wouldn't encounter a person who had awakened the origin divine power factor. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes slightly. He was not afraid. As long as he had not awakened the divine power factor, Lu Ming was not afraid of even a half-step divine king. Even if he could not defeat them, he could still escape. Lu Ming, I've given you a chance just now, but you didn't cherish it. Now, not only will you hand over the 9-petaled ice lotus, but you'll also have to hand over everything else you have. Also, open up your dantian and sea of consciousness. Let us search. We can consider sparing your life. The white-haired youth spoke again, his eyes flashing with greed. He thought of how Lu Ming was able to cross the heavenly gates with just a 4th-level celestial deity. He must have had a great opportunity on him. At this moment, even Lu Ming could not help but suspect that he had really drunk too much and done something to let the lady down. However, he had no impression of it at all. He didn't feel anything at all. If it was true, he would have suffered a great loss. The white-haired youth and company were also dazed. They didn't understand what the absolute beauty meant. It seems that you want to save him, the white-haired youth said coldly. He guessed that the absolute beauty wanted to save Lu Ming and deliberately said that she wanted to kill him to deceive them. Get lost, the absolute beauty shouted coldly. Humph, you're really in cahoots. Then I'll take you down as well. The white-haired young man's face darkened, and a powerful aura enveloped the beautiful woman. Bang! Then, the white-haired young man took a step forward and stretched out his palm. A huge palm formed. This palm was made of ice and was filled with a terrible chill. It grabbed at the beautiful woman. You're overestimating yourself. And NBSP, the absolute bowtie's eyes turned cold, and she exuded an ancient aura. Whoosh! Then, the absolute beauty waved her hand, and a sword light suddenly appeared, slashing toward the white-haired young man. With a poof, the big hand formed by the white-haired young man was directly split in half. The sword light did not stop and continued to cut towards the white-haired young man. Origin Divine Power Factor. You've awakened the Origin Divine Power Factor. The white-haired young man roared in fear and retreated. At the same time, a shield flew out from his forehead. Buzz! The sword light struck the shield, causing sparks to fly. The shield was sent flying, and a deep crack appeared on it. The white-haired youth's face was deathly pale. This was a 9th-level upper-grade defensive divine artifact, yet it was directly broken through by the other party's sword. The rest of the young men also looked horrified. They could not help but retreat to keep a distance from the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman took a step forward, and her sword soared into the sky. Wait a minute, it's a misunderstanding, it's all a misunderstanding. The white-haired youth shouted in fear. It's because you have a wife. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. The white-haired youth screamed in fear and retreated. Still not getting lost. The absolute beauty shouted coldly. She didn't attack immediately, but her aura became stronger. All right, let's go. The white-haired youth said. Although he was extremely unhappy, he didn't dare to fight the absolute beauty, even though there were 5 of them and he was a half-step divine king. As half-step divine kings, there was a huge difference between those who had awakened the origin divine power factor and those who had. Even if the 5 of them worked together, they would not be a match for the absolute beauty. Therefore, even though he was furious, he could only grit his teeth and avoid it. Wait a moment. At this moment, Lu Ming called out to the white-haired young man and the rest. What are you doing? The white-haired young man looked at Lu Ming. Brothers, don't leave. Help me deal with this crazy woman. As long as you help me, I'll give you all the treasures I have. Lu Ming smiled. All the treasures? The white-haired young man and the others were stunned for a moment, and a trace of fire flashed in their eyes. They were indeed tempted by the treasures on Lu Ming. However, when their gazes fell on the absolute beauty, they hesitated. Dealing with the absolute beauty would be life-threatening. The white-haired youth's eyes turned, and he finally decided to give up. Although the treasure was important, how could it be more important than his own life? Therefore, the white-haired young man decided to refuse. However, the absolute beauty didn't give him the chance. If you still want to join forces against me, then I'll kill you all as well. Die! The beautiful woman shouted coldly. She brandished her sword, shooting out beams of sword light. The sword light enveloped Lu Ming, the white-haired young man, and the others. "What are you doing?" "Damn it, you crazy woman!" the white-haired young man roared. He opened his mouth and let out a long roar. His body expanded rapidly and actually turned into a huge white lion. This was the divine beast, the snow lion. Not only him, but the other young men also transformed into snow lions. It turned out that the white-haired young man and the others were not humans, but the family of the frost lion, a divine beast. They transformed into their true forms and unleashed their full strength. They opened their mouths and roared, sending out waves of icy air currents that attacked the absolute beauty. The white-haired young man was furious. He had planned to retreat, but the absolute beauty suddenly attacked him. He could only defend with all his strength. Boom! Boom! The area was constantly exploding, and the force was overflowing. "This is good opportunity." Lu Ming's eyes lit up as he transformed into his ancient god body. Star explosion. Lu Ming thrust his spear forward. A ray of spear light rushed toward the beautiful woman and exploded, colliding with the beautiful woman's sword light in a terrifying manner. With the help of this force, Lu Ming's body retreated rapidly. He then cast the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique and charged forward madly. This woman's brain is indeed not very good. The moment he rushed out, such a thought flashed across Lu Ming's mind. In fact, through the previous few times, Lu Ming realized that although the absolute beauty was powerful and had amazing talents, she did not have many schemes and thoughts. To put it bluntly, it was pure. Yes, she was pure. Not only pure, but also proud. That was why she fell for their tricks time and time again. Just now, Lu Ming had only pretended to invite the white-haired young man and the rest to attack together. The absolute beauty attacked them without thinking. The main reason was that he was simple-minded and thought that the white-haired youth and the others would really attack. The other reason was her pride. She was very confident in her own strength and believed that she could deal with the white-haired young man and the others. Lu Ming had seized the opportunity. Pervert, die. Seeing that Lu Ming had run away again, the absolute beauty was furious. She abandoned the white-haired young man and the others and chased after Lu Ming. One chasing and one escaping, they disappeared in the blink of an eye, leaving the white-haired young man and the others looking at each other. Who is this crazy woman? Why haven't I seen him before? To think that there's such a beautiful and talented person in the universal camp. Looks like I'll have to pay more attention to her in the future. There must be a secret on Lu Ming. Otherwise, the Jin and Qin families wouldn't want to kill him. Humph. I hope that he's lucky and doesn't die in the hands of that woman. He won't be so lucky the next time he meets us. The white-haired youth and the others chatted for a while before leaving. Lu Ming circulated the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique to the extreme. His divine power boiled and condensed into a Kuan Peng. The Kuan Peng's wings flapped rapidly. With every flap, Lu Ming flew hundreds of miles away. However, the absolute beauty was even faster. She transformed into a sword light and streaked through the air. Her speed was even faster than Lu Ming's. This was also due to the presence of the cold nether energy. Otherwise, the absolute bowtie speed would be even more astonishing and Lu Ming would not be able to escape. Lu Ming, don't even think about using the dire beast to get rid of me this time. I won't be fooled again. The absolute beauty shouted. At the thought of how Lu Ming had escaped time and time again, she was very upset and her killing intent grew stronger. Beauty, beauty, why do you have to chase me? I have a wife. Lu Ming shouted. It's because you have a wife, you deserve to die even more. The absolute beauty said coldly. Lu Ming almost vomited blood. He staggered and almost fell. What do you mean you deserve to die more because you have a wife? Why did her words sound like she was jealous? However, Lu Ming had never seen this woman before. Beauty, are you secretly in love with me, but you found out that I have a wife, so you can't have me, so you want to kill me? You can't have such a thought. It's too perverted. Lu Ming shouted. Nonsense. Who likes you? Don't think too much. The absolute bowtie's expression turned even colder. Then why do you still want to chase me? Why do you have to kill me? Lu Ming was really speechless. I'm going to kill you. Why do I have so many reasons? Die! The absolute beauty shouted and a sword light slashed out. Lu Ming dodged it by a hair's breadth and was almost seriously injured. This woman really wanted to kill him. She wasn't just saying it. She didn't show any mercy. Lu Ming was completely confused now. Even with his intelligence, he could not guess the purpose of the beautiful woman. If she had been sent by the Jin and Qin families, or by forces that had colluded with the Dark Ice clan, the beautiful woman would not have saved Lu Ming when the white-haired young man and the others wanted to kill him. What was the difference between her killing herself and being killed? However, the absolute beauty wanted to chase away the white-haired young man and the rest and kill Lu Ming with her own hands. No matter how she looked at it, she looked like a resentful wife who had been let down. Beauty, did you get the wrong person? In the end, Lu Ming shouted helplessly. I won't be mistaken. Your name is Lu Ming and you came from the Qin Heaven star system. The person I want to kill is you. The absolute beauty said coldly. Lu Ming was speechless. He could only fly at full speed. A supreme cold treasure? Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. Suddenly, Lu Ming's body trembled slightly. He circulated his divine energy, and the ninth heaven Kuanping that he had condensed became more solid. At this critical moment, the 9 heavenly Kuanping technique actually broke through and reached the 8th level. Originally, Lu Ming had cultivated the incomplete 9 heavenly Kuanping technique to the peak of the 7th stage. Later on, he obtained the complete version of the 9 heavenly Kuanping technique. After cultivating it for a period of time, he was able to achieve a breakthrough naturally under the high concentration he had. The moment he broke through to the 8th level of the 9 heavenly Kuanping technique, Lu Ming's speed had increased greatly. The Kuanping flapped its wings and Lu Ming's speed increased rapidly, covering 1,000 miles in an instant. In an instant, Lu Ming's speed was not any slower than the absolute beauty. I've broken through. The absolute Bowtie's eyes narrowed. Divine power surged wildly, turning into a beam of sword light. She moved forward like lightning, but she could not catch up with Lu Ming. The two of them maintained a certain distance. Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. The two of them flew deeper and deeper into the dark frost-forbidden grounds. However, the absolute beauty continued to pursue Lu Ming. This crazy woman, what kind of deep hatred do I have with her? Being chased, Lu Ming was furious. He couldn't continue like this. Although he had the quantity formula, which had an endless supply of Shen power and could maintain it for a long time, if this continued, he wouldn't have time to find the cold treasures. He would be delayed. Lu Ming, there's an extremely strong fluctuation of cold energy ahead. Suddenly, the voice of the quantity formula sounded. The fluctuation of the ultimate cold energy? Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he continued flying. After flying for a while, the coldness in front of them became even more intense. The cold chi was pressing and the cold chi was like mist. In the distance, Lu Ming saw an underground crack. It was huge, hundreds of miles long and dozens of miles wide. The dense cold nether energy was coming from the underground crack. There it is. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. Lu Ming thought of a plan that might be able to get rid of the beautiful woman. The frosty chi in the underground crack was so dense that it would be a good use to get rid of the beautiful woman. Buzz! Lu Ming rushed toward the underground crack. The underground crack was huge. Even though Lu Ming had transformed into an ancient god, he was still very small and he could easily rush in. The absolute Bowtie's expression changed slightly when she saw Lu Ming rushing into the underground crack. Humph! Don't even think about escaping. The terrifying vines. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. The cold air that was spurted out from the stump-like head was extremely terrifying. Even Lu Ming shivered as if his body was about to be frozen. The beautiful woman had to lay down more than 10 layers of divine power around her body to block the cold. Bang! 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 At this moment, the ground exploded. A few vines suddenly rushed out from under Lu Ming and the beautiful woman's feet, heading toward them. There were a total of 4 vines. 2 of them were used to deal with Lu Ming, while the other 2 were used to deal with the beautiful woman. The vine was snow white and crystal clear like jade, but it was filled with a terrifying chill. And NBSP hoo-hoo. The vines whipped in the air, making a whistling sound as they lashed at Lu Ming like a soft whip. Moon slaying. Lu Ming held the spear with both hands and slashed continuously. Boom! Boom! The long spear struck the vine, causing a violent tremor. Then, Lu Ming's body shook violently and he retreated continuously. The qi and blood in his body churned and he almost vomited blood. The surface of his body was covered in a layer of ice crystals, almost freezing his body. He had to continuously channel his divine power to dissolve the layer of ice. So that tree stump-like head is a vine head, but its strength is so terrifying. Lu Ming's expression was very grave. At this moment, he could tell that the huge head that had appeared earlier was the vine's head. The vine's strength was extremely shocking. It was definitely at the Divine King realm and was even stronger than the Night Demon Lord. Buzz! Buzz! On the other side, the beautiful woman's sword light continued to burst forth, cutting 2 vines and sending them flying. Roar! Roar! The vine roared and the 4 vines began to dance wildly. Each vine could change its size freely. Like a long snake, it lashed out or wrapped around the 2 of them. However, this time, only one of the 2 vines that were originally attacking Lu Ming remained. The other one attacked the beautiful woman. It was obvious that the absolute beauty posed a greater threat to it, so the vine used more power to deal with the absolute beauty. Lu Ming, if you want to kill this vine and get the treasure of absolute frost, you have to destroy its head. Otherwise, you can't kill it by just attacking the vine. The quantity formula shouted. Understood. Lu Ming responded. He waved his long spear and exchanged a few more moves with the vines. Suddenly, Lu Ming's body moved and he executed the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique to its maximum. With a flash, he dodged the vine's attack and charged toward the vine's head. In an instant, Lu Ming was not far from the vine's head. And NBSP hoo-hoo. The vine opened its mouth wide and spat out a thick mist that gushed toward Lu Ming. The temperature of the mist was shockingly low. Lu Ming was enveloped in it and he felt that his body was about to freeze. Not only his body, but his soul was also about to be frozen. Suddenly, the 9th ice chain glowed. A layer of silver-white light enveloped Lu Ming and blocked the cold air outside. Then, Lu Ming's body shook and the ice crystals on the surface of his body shattered. Lu Ming continued to attack the vine's head. Seeing that Lu Ming was about to get close to the vine's head, he was about to use the supernova to kill the vine completely. However, at this moment, the rocks around the vine's head exploded and 5 vines rushed out. Each of the 5 vines was crystal clear and exuded a terrifying chill. They lashed out or wrapped around Lu Ming. Not good. Lu Ming's pupils contracted rapidly. It turned out that this vine actually had so many vines. It was simply like an octopus. Previously, he had only used 4 vines to attack Lu Ming and the rest. The other 5 vines were hidden near his head to protect it. Once someone got close, the 5 vines could launch a lightning attack. At that moment, Lu Ming could only try his best to resist. Roar! Roar! A dragon's roar was heard. Lu Ming circulated the divine dragon materialization art. 7 divine dragon manifestations appeared and charged toward a vine. At the same time, he brandished his spear and attacked a few vines. Boom! Boom! A series of explosions rang out. The 7 9-clawed divine dragons were instantly destroyed. Lu Ming's body shook violently. His arms were about to explode as he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, out of the 5 vines, Lu Ming could only block 3 of them. There was nothing he could do about the remaining 2. The remaining 2 sets of canes wrapped around Lu Ming. A terrifying chill enveloped Lu Ming's entire body, and he was immediately covered in a layer of ice. Break, break, break! Lu Ming roared. The divine power in his body erupted and he struggled madly, trying to break the vines. However, the vine was extremely tough. Lu Ming exerted all his strength, but not only did it not break, it tightened even more. The green scales on Lu Ming's body were about to break. Then, the vine pulled Lu Ming and stuffed him into its mouth. It was planning to eat him. This is troublesome. There was a trace of panic in Lu Ming's eyes. The current situation was not good. His entire body was entangled and almost frozen. He had no way to resist. Although he had cultivated the moon divine power, his cultivation was still weak. He could not stop the cold from invading. Brat, don't be afraid. Entering its mouth is our chance. We might be able to kill it. At this moment, the measure character said. Enter its mouth and kill it? How? The coldness in this guy's mouth is extremely terrifying. I'm afraid I'll be frozen to death in an instant if I go in. Lu Ming said. Frozen to death? How is that possible? Roar. The vine roared and waved, lashing at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body shrank and returned to his human form. He then executed the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique to its maximum and dodged continuously. With his body shrunk, he became more agile and dodged more easily. Coupled with the 8th level of the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique, Lu Ming dodged 9 attacks from the vines in a row and rushed towards the head of the vine. When Lu Ming was near the vine's head, the gem on its head glowed again. A white beam of light rushed toward Lu Ming. This was the beam of light that had attacked the beautiful woman earlier. It was shockingly fast, and it also had a terrifying chill. Lu Ming wanted to hide but he could not. The absolute beauty didn't dodge it either. The next moment, the white beam of light attacked Lu Ming. At this moment, Lu Ming felt a bone-chilling cold burst out, wanting to freeze him completely. It was not just his physical body, but also his soul. Cold. It was extremely cold. Lu Ming's thoughts seemed to be frozen. This was an extremely terrifying thing. Fortunately, Lu Ming had the measure formula. In his sea of consciousness, the measure formula glowed. A devouring force enveloped Lu Ming's entire body. Immediately, the bone-chilling cold was completely devoured by the measure formula. Lu Ming regained his freedom in an instant. Buzz! Lu Ming increased his speed and in a flash, he was in the mouth of the vine. Lu Ming. Seeing Lu Ming rush into the mouth of the vine, the absolute Bowtie's eyes revealed a trace of complicated feelings. He swept his gaze across the area and frowned when he saw the state of the absolute beauty. Should I save him or not? Lu Ming muttered. According to Lu Ming's character, he did not want to save her because this woman had been hunting him down. Since she was an enemy, Lu Ming would definitely not show mercy. However, this woman had saved him twice. Previously, he had faced the white-haired youth. Now he was facing the vines. No matter what the other party's purpose was, he had indeed saved him. Especially this time, in order to save him, he had sacrificed himself. Save him. Finally, Lu Ming muttered. He had his own principles. Since the other party had saved him, he had to return the favor. Lu Ming took a step forward and arrived beside the beautiful woman. This woman has been hit by that vine. The cold has already attacked her heart. In at most 10 minutes, she will be completely frozen to death. The quantity formula said. Lu Ming nodded and sized up the beautiful woman carefully. To be honest, this absolute beauty was really beautiful. The clothes on her body were slightly torn by the vines, revealing a large area of her snow-white skin. In addition, he was motionless at the moment and looked like he was at the mercy of others. Lu Ming's heart wavered when he saw this. What are you trying to do? The beautiful woman said nervously, but her voice was weak. What do you think? Lu Ming smiled evilly. This smile made the woman's face turn even paler and filled her with despair. I'll ask you some questions. If you can answer them, I'll consider letting you go. Lu Ming said. What do you want to ask? Go ahead and ask. The absolute beauty said. Why do you want to kill me? And why did you save me? Lu Ming asked. This was what he was most curious about. The absolute beauty gritted her teeth, seemingly unwilling to say. You're not going to tell me, right? If you don't, then don't blame me. Lu Ming smiled evilly and touched the beautiful woman's face. The touch was extremely cold. A terrifying chill rushed toward Lu Ming's palm. Lu Ming circulated his divine power to dispel it. Stop, stop, I'll talk, the absolute beauty said in a panic. Lu Ming looked at the other party and did not say a word, waiting for him to continue. Because if I don't kill you, I'll marry you. If I don't want to marry you, I'll have to kill you. The absolute beauty said. What? Lu Ming was dumbfounded. He thought that he had heard wrongly. You want to marry me? Beauty, we've never met before. Why do you want to marry me? Lu Ming was really dumbfounded. Are you Prince Jing Ye's successor? The absolute beauty suddenly said. Lu Ming was so shocked that he almost jumped. How did the other party know that Lu Ming was the successor of Jing Yu? He did not tell anyone about this. How did you know? Lu Ming's face darkened and his eyes were filled with killing intent. This matter could not be leaked out. Jing Yu had been framed back then, and he had a terrifying enemy in the Great Void Holy Dynasty. If the secret that he was Startled Feather's inheritor were to be revealed, he would most likely be killed. My father told me. The absolute beauty said. Your father. Lu Ming's heart turned cold. Could it be that he had been exposed? My father is in the Universal Camp. When you were fighting with the others in the Universal Camp, my father happened to pass by and he saw through you. The absolute beauty said. Your father. Lu Ming muttered, his mind spinning rapidly. Other than fighting with Frigid Eagle in the Universal Camp, he had not fought at all. Could it be that he had been recognized at that time? Who is your father? How did you recognize me? And what does this have to do with you marrying me? Lu Ming asked a few questions in succession. My father was Prince Jingyu's teacher back then. He followed Prince Jingyu for countless years, so it's only natural that my father would be able to recognize his successor. The absolute beauty said. Jingyu's teacher? Lu Ming was slightly stunned. This was really beyond his expectations. My father is proficient in the art of numerancy. He predicted that Prince Jingyu's successor was about to be born. Furthermore, he swore an oath that he would marry his daughter, me, to the successor of Prince Jingyu. My father believed that Prince Jingyu was framed. He wanted me to help Prince Jingyu's successor find out the truth. The absolute beauty continued. Oriole behind, please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. My father wanted me to marry you, but I didn't want to. So, I had to kill you. The beautiful woman's voice turned cold. Lu Ming understood a lot after listening to the absolute Bowtie's words. Her father was Jing Ye's teacher, and he was well versed in the art of divination. He knew that Jing Ye's successor was about to be born, and thus, he wanted his daughter to marry him. It was only when Lu Ming was fighting with Lang Ying at the Universal Camp that the beautiful lad's father saw him and recognized him. It was no wonder that the absolute beauty wanted to kill Lu Ming as soon as she saw him. Since you want to kill me, why did you save me? Lu Ming asked again. Father wants me to marry you and protect you. So you have to die. You can only die in my hands, not in the hands of anyone else. The absolute beauty said. As she said this, her voice became weaker and weaker. This logic is really weird. Lu Ming pursed his lips and was rather speechless. However, according to this logic, it made sense. If that was the case, he had to save this absolute beauty even more. It wasn't because of her beauty, but because she was the daughter of teacher Jingyu. From the looks of it, those who had followed Jingyu back then hadn't been completely suppressed. There were still people alive. In the future, if he were to help Jingyu reverse his verdict, he would still need the help of these people. Lu Ming squatted down and held the beautiful woman's hand. What are you doing? You said that you would let me go if I answered your question. You can't go back on your word. The absolute beauty panicked. She thought that Lu Ming was going to do something to her. What are you panicking for? I'm saving you. Lu Ming smiled faintly and channeled a stream of divine power into the beautiful woman's body. However, the moment the divine power entered the other's body, it was frozen by the terrifying cold air in the other's body. Her body has been completely frozen by the cold air, and it's almost frozen to her heart and brain. If these two places are frozen, she's going to die. The quantity formula said. Can you suck out the cold qi in her body? Lu Ming asked. Of course I can, but I can't expose myself. Put your palm on her palm and it'll draw the cold out of her body. But this way, it will be slower. The quantity formula said. If the measure formula appeared directly and the devouring power enveloped the beautiful woman, it would be easy to absorb the cold qi in her body. However, if that were the case, the measure formula would be exposed. The origin ancient word could not be exposed now, or else it would bring a great disaster. It doesn't matter if it's slow. Lu Ming said. Then, his palm and the beautiful woman's palm touched. The beautiful woman's palm had been frozen into ice. It was as cold as a piece of 10,000-year-old ice. When they stuck to each other, the measure formula burst out with an attractive force. It flowed along Lu Ming's palm and rushed into the beautiful woman's body. The cold air in the beautiful woman's body was continuously absorbed by Lu Ming's palm, and then entered the measure formula. The absolute beauty blinked her eyes twice. She was rather curious. She did not expect Lu Ming to have such means. Initially, she thought that she was dead for sure. Buzz! Buzz! And NBSP whoosh. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. It came from the direction of the passageway that Lu Ming and the rest had entered from. There's someone. Lu Ming's expression changed. He didn't expect that someone would be able to find their way in here. The next moment, 5 figures appeared in the underground space. It's them. Lu Ming saw 5 figures at a glance. They were the white-haired young man and the other 4 he had met earlier. The white-haired young man and the other 4 swept their gazes across the room, and their eyes landed on Lu Ming and the beautiful lady. They were shocked to see the beautiful lady, but their eyes lit up when they swept their gazes across the scene. They were not stupid. After seeing the corpse of the vine and the situation of Lu Ming and the beautiful woman, how could they not guess? Ha ha, this is the Myriad River's ice vine. I didn't expect that this place would actually give birth to a Myriad River's ice vine. What great luck! A young man laughed excitedly when he saw the corpse of the vine. His eyes were filled with a fiery light. The greatest luck is that the Myriad River ice vine has been killed. We don't have to do anything now, ha ha ha. Another young man laughed. It's you? Get lost. The absolute beauty shouted coldly when she saw the white-haired young man and the others. Ioyo, you're still so arrogant. Did we interrupt your date with your little lover? Hee hee, you're still so arrogant in your current state. You really don't know what's good for you. The white-haired young man cried out as he stared at the beautiful woman with an unfriendly look. The absolute beauty was furious, and her almond-shaped eyes widened. If it wasn't for the fact that her entire body was frozen by the cold air, she would have immediately attacked and taught the white-haired youth and the others a profound lesson. You what? With your current condition, do you still want to deal with us? You can't even protect yourself, right? The white-haired young man sized up the beautiful woman and revealed an unscrupulous smile. A beauty like you is rare. Don't worry, I'll let you have a good time before I kill you. Haha. The white-haired young man laughed. The absolute bowtie's face turned pale in an instant. She naturally knew what the white-haired young man was going to do. Quick, Lu Ming, kill me. I'm begging you, kill me. The absolute beauty sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. She would rather die than be humiliated by the white-haired young man. How unlucky, Lu Ming muttered. He didn't expect that the white-haired young man and the others would come again after he dealt with the vines. Lu Ming could escape from the white-haired young man and the rest. The key was that he had yet to obtain the gem on the vine's head. It would be a pity to leave like this. Moreover, he might not be able to escape safely if he were to leave with the absolute beauty. Lu Ming's eyes darted around and he began to think of countermeasures. Third brother, let's hurry up and get rid of this brat, lest a long night brings trouble. One of the young men said. All right, leave this kid to me. You guys collect the corpse of the Myriad River's ice vine and leave this place after quickly dealing with it. With that, the white-haired young man walked toward Lu Ming, while the other young men walked toward the vines. One of the young men walked up to the vine and tried to use a storage ring to store the vine's body. At this moment, a sudden change occurred. The vines that were originally motionless suddenly moved again. Hoo hoo hoo. A few vines started to dance like snakes and charged towards the young men. This situation was beyond everyone's expectations. The vine clearly had no life left, so why did it suddenly move again? Not only the white-haired young man, but even Lu Ming and the beautiful woman were stunned. Ah! Caught off guard, one of the young men was directly pierced by a vine. Then, with a swing of the vine, he picked up the young man and smashed him heavily onto the ground. Boom! The ground trembled, and the young man was killed on the spot. At this moment, even if the white-haired young man and the other 2 wanted to escape, it would be difficult. They tried to attack a few times, but were blocked by the vines. I'll fight you to the death. The white-haired young man roared and fought with the Myriad River ice vine. My strength is not as good as before, Lu Ming muttered. He realized that the strength of the Myriad River's ice vine was much weaker than when he was fighting with them. Otherwise, the white-haired young man and the others would have been in danger. But now, the white-haired young man and the other two were able to fight against the Myriad River ice vine. I didn't expect this ice vine to have a secondary core, the quantity formula said. Subcore. Lu Ming was puzzled. That's right. This Myriad River's ice vine has a subcore in addition to its main core. Just now, when you shattered the main core, the Myriad River's ice vine wasn't completely dead. It was awakening its subcore. However, a subcore is a subcore after all. It's far from being comparable to the main core. It seems that this ice vine's spiritual intelligence has been greatly reduced. It has already gone crazy and only knows how to attack. Its strength has also been greatly reduced. The quantity formula explained. Lu Ming understood. He could not help but secretly rejoice in his heart. It turned out that the Myriad River's ice vine had a subcore. Fortunately, the white-haired young man and the rest had come. Otherwise, if Lu Ming had gone to retrieve the gem on the Myriad River's ice vine's head and the Myriad River's ice vine suddenly woke up and attacked, the consequences would be unpredictable. This won't do. If this goes on, the winner will be decided very soon. At that time, it will be disadvantageous for both of us. We must absorb the cold qi from her body as soon as possible. Old Liang, can't you be faster? Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to the quantity formula. If I hurry, it'll be easily exposed. And your palms are separated by palms, too far from her heart and brain. The heart and brain are both fragile parts. If I increase my strength, the cold air will hurt her heart and brain. The quantity formula said. Then how can we increase the speed? Lu Ming asked again. It's simple. Place one hand on her forehead and the other on her heart. This way, it'll be able to perform better when we're closer. The quantity formula said. Lu Ming was in a difficult position. It was fine if it was stuck to the forehead, but if it was stuck to the girl's heart, it was a little. Hurry up. You're a man and yet you're still so wishy-washy. Don't say that I didn't warn you when the outcome of the battle is decided. The quantity formula called out. Then. All right. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and stared at the beautiful woman. Miss, you can see the situation now. In order to save you as soon as possible. I'm sorry. With that, Lu Ming placed one hand on the beautiful woman's forehead and his other hand on her heart. Blue Spirit, please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. Today, only by killing him will we have a chance to kill him. His vital point is that head. Let's join forces and kill him. The white-haired young man was a decisive man. Since he couldn't escape, he could only risk his life. The two of them came up with a plan through voice transmission. Roar! Roar! The two snow lions roared and used the lion's roar technique. The air was overbearing and blew away a few vines. Then the two rushed towards the vines' heads. However, there were 9 vines in total. Immediately, the rest of the vines shot towards the 2 frost lions. I'll block the vines, you go and kill him. At this moment, an ice snow lion roared loudly. His entire body was burning with divine power. He opened his mouth and roared. One after another, lions flew out from his mouth and charged towards the vines. This was a secret technique that was condensed from divine power. This frost lion was going all out. It burned its divine power and activated a terrifying secret technique. Boom! 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 The lions rushed out one after another, slamming into the vines and actually temporarily pushing away the 9 vines. How could the white-haired young man miss such an opportunity? His entire body glowed and he roared as he charged towards the head of the Myriad River's ice vine. He waved his sharp claws and streaks of claw radiance clawed at the head of the Myriad River's ice vine. Roar! The Myriad River's ice vine roared and opened its mouth. Icicles shot out from its mouth and collided with the white-haired youth's claw radiance. At the same time, the ultimate cold gem on the head of the Myriad River ice vine glowed. A white beam of light shot toward the white-haired youth. This beam of light was extremely terrifying and its speed was shocking. Previously, even the absolute beauty and Lu Ming could not avoid it. The white-haired young man naturally couldn't avoid it and was hit by the white beam. The white-haired youth's body stiffened as soon as he was hit by the white light. A layer of ice crystals appeared on the surface of his body at an alarming speed. The snow lion cultivated divine power of the cold attribute and it controlled divine-grade divine power, but it could not block the cold air of the light beam. Bang! The white-haired young man's huge body fell to the ground, unable to move at all. He wasn't dead yet, and his eyes were filled with fear. Roar! The other snow lion let out a furious roar. However, there was only one snow lion left, and it was even less of a match for the 10,000 rivers ice vines. The 9 ice vines danced wildly, attacking the snow lion like a storm. Soon, the snow lion couldn't hold on any longer. Its body was hit continuously and it was seriously injured. If we're going to die, well, die together. The ice lion's eyes were filled with madness as it charged towards the Myriad River ice vine, its body emitting a blinding white light. He was going to self-destruct. In the next moment, with a terrifying explosion, the frost lion self-destructed, and the terrifying energy swept through the entire underground space. Not good. Lu Ming reached out and grabbed the beautiful woman's slender waist. His figure flashed and he retreated far away. He set up layers of defense in front of him to offset the impact of the outside world. The light dissipated, and the self-destructing snow lion had disappeared. The white-haired youth who was frozen and on the verge of death had also completely fallen. As for the Myriad River's ice vine, it was obviously injured as well. It was at the center of the explosion, and there were several big holes in its head. Its aura was much weaker. Roar! The Myriad River's ice vine howled and glared at Lu Ming and the beautiful woman with its furious eyes. The 9 vines danced and rushed toward Lu Ming and the beautiful woman. Good, I can make it. At this moment, Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief. He suddenly let go of the beautiful woman and retreated quickly. Boom! Lu Ming had just retreated when a powerful aura burst out from the beautiful woman. Lu Ming had finally absorbed the last bit of cold air in the beautiful woman's body. Once the cold air was absorbed, the beautiful woman's powerful cultivation burst out in full force. That was why Lu Ming had retreated in a hurry. Who knew if the absolute beauty would kill him after she recovered? The absolute Bowtie's eyes were cold as she swept a glance at Lu Ming. In the end, her figure flashed and she charged at the Myriad River's ice vine. Die! The absolute beauty shouted and sword light burst out one after another, aiming for the Myriad River ice vine's head. Because of the sub-core, the Myriad River's ice vine's strength was not as strong as before. Just now, it was injured by the snow lion's self-explosion, so its strength had weakened a lot. In this way, it was no match for the beautiful woman at all. As for the absolute beauty, all she had to do was to pay attention to the white light beam that the other party shot out. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sword lights attacked the Myriad River ice vine like a tide. Some of the sword lights pushed the opponent's vines away, while the rest of the sword lights hit the head of the Myriad River's ice vine, leaving sword wounds on its head. Roar! The Myriad River's ice vine roared madly. It had no spiritual intelligence. Its head glowed and another beam of light flew out from the gem. However, this time, the absolute beauty was already on guard. She was far enough away, and her figure flashed, avoiding the light beam. Slash! Die! The beautiful woman shouted as she held her sword with both hands. A terrifying sword light shot into the sky. Then, the sword light slashed at the Myriad River ice vine. The sword light was too powerful. It was the all-out attack of the absolute beauty. It directly swept away the 9 vines and slashed at the head of the Myriad River's ice vine. The Myriad River's ice vine's head was instantly split in half. With this, the Myriad River's ice vine had completely fallen. Its huge corpse fell heavily to the ground. After killing the Myriad River's ice vine, the absolute beauty turned around and looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body tensed up and he was ready for a big battle. You saved my life this time, so we'll spare you this time. Next time we meet, I won't let you go. Remember the one who killed you, Lan Ling. After leaving behind these cold words, the absolute beauty turned into a sword light and rushed into the passage, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After the beautiful woman left, Lu Ming secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the absolute beauty still had some conscience and didn't continue to kill him. Otherwise, he would have to prepare to escape again. Lan Ling, is that her name? Lu Ming muttered. He then shook his head and smiled bitterly. He had mixed feelings. No one would be able to remain calm when a beautiful woman appeared out of nowhere and said that she wanted to marry him. I have to improve my strength as soon as possible. Otherwise, I'll be hunted down by this crazy woman again the next time I see her. Lu Ming underestimated it and walked towards the Myriad River's ice vine. The Myriad River's ice vine's head had been split in half by the blue spirit sword. Its subcore had also been shattered by the destructive sword Qi. It couldn't be more dead. Fortunately, the chilling gem is fine. Lu Ming looked at the gem on the head of the Myriad River's ice vine. It was still intact. Fortunately, the angle of Lan Ling's attack was slightly off. Otherwise, if the gemstone was shattered, Lu Ming would vomit blood. In a flash, he appeared on the Myriad River's ice vine's head. Lu Ming took out a combat sword and removed the glacial gem from the Myriad River's ice vine's head. Refining the rattan. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. The gem was extremely cold, and it emanated a terrifying cold air. The quality of this gem is definitely not inferior to the Ice Jade Cold Heart of the Ice Soul clan. Lu Ming muttered. Kid, with this extreme cold gem, I can neutralize a portion of the energy in the star core. I can quickly refine a portion of the energy. The quantity formula said. Alright, then you can absorb it. Lu Ming said. Following that, Lu Ming's glabella glowed and the measure formula flew out. It shone at the utmost cold gem and the gem disappeared, being absorbed by the measure formula. After the quantity formula was absorbed, it flew back to Lu Ming's sea of consciousness. It quieted down and began to refine the energy. Lu Ming sized him up. First, his gaze fell on the 9 vines of the Myriad River ice vine. The Myriad River's ice vine was born naturally. It could be said that its entire body was a treasure. Lu Ming was especially envious of the 9 vines. He had witnessed the power of the 9 vines in the previous battle. Not only were they extremely tough, but they were also filled with a terrifying chill. If the 9 vines were to be refined into the ice shackles, wouldn't the power of the ice shackles increase greatly? The power of the ice shackles was not bad, but it also had a weakness, and that was its fragility. Against cultivators of the same level, or even 1, 2, or 3 levels higher, it was still effective. However, the enemies that Lu Ming was facing were usually 4 to 5 levels higher than him, or even more. The ice chains were easily broken. However, if he refined this kind of rattan, the weakness of the ice shackles would disappear, and its power would definitely increase. He did as he said. However, there was a problem that gave Lu Ming a headache. How could he cut the rattan? Lu Ming walked around the corpse of the Myriad River's ice vine and his eyes lit up. He took out a combat sword and started slashing at the place where the vine and the root of the head were connected. The Myriad River's ice vine's head was not that hard. Very soon, Lu Ming removed one of the vines. It's so heavy. Lu Ming grabbed the rattan and waved it slightly. As the rattan waved, it pierced through the air and made a terrifying whistling sound. It was extremely heavy and there was a cold air that drilled into Lu Ming's arm. Lu Ming was not shocked. Instead, he was happy. The more mysterious the vine was, the greater the benefits. Lu Ming immediately sat down cross-legged and with a thought, an ice chain flew out. This ice chain had been refined into a ball of cold liquid and it was the most powerful. Lu Ming had to first refine the rattan into this ice chain. And NBSP he used the ice chain secret technique, and the ice chains wriggled and merged with the vines. Then he started to refine them. Of course, this kind of rattan was extremely tough. It was not easy to refine it. Lu Ming spent half a month to completely refine the rattan and integrate it into the ice chains. With a thought, the ice chains danced like long snakes. Hoo hoo hoo. The ice chains whipped in the air, erupting with a terrifying whistling sound. Bang! The ice chain struck the ground, causing the ground to shake and gravel to fly everywhere. A ditch a few meters deep was created. What a powerful force! Lu Ming's eyes lit up. One had to know that the ground here had been eroded by the cold nether energy for many years and had long been extremely hard. However, a whip from the ice chain had caused great damage, while the ice chain itself was not affected at all. Then, Lu Ming took out a high-grade divine sword and slashed at the ice chains with all his might. Clang! Sparks flew in all directions, and the divine sword hummed and vibrated non-stop. However, there was not a single mark on the ice chains. Tough, it's too tough. It has completely inherited the characteristics of the Myriad River ice vine. Kid, that's a good idea. The Myriad River's ice vine was born naturally and has endless potential. It was far from reaching its peak before. So, as long as you refine its vines into your secret skill, the power of your secret skill will continue to improve as your cultivation improves. The quantity formula said. Old Liang, how's the refining of the energy going? Lu Ming looked delighted. Refining energy can't be done overnight, but I've already refined a portion of it. I can transfer it to you now. The quantity formula said. Let's wait for a while. I'll refine all the remaining vines first. Lu Ming said. Following that, Lu Ming continued to struggle. He cut off the remaining 8 vines and refined them into his ice chains. Lu Ming realized that the remaining ice chains were more difficult to fuse with the rattan. It also took a longer time. Just like that, Lu Ming spent a whole year to refine the remaining 8 vines and integrate them into the ice chains. With a single thought, the 9 ice chains danced in the air, making a terrifying whistling sound. With another thought, the 9 ice chains disappeared without a trace. He could use it freely. In this case, my combat strength has increased a little. Lu Ming smiled. Now, the 9 ice chains were extremely tough. They could be used to attack and defend. Ordinary people couldn't break them at all. This greatly increased Lu Ming's life-saving energy. Old Liang, now, transfer the refined energy to me. Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to the quantity formula. Now, it was time to improve his cultivation. All right, pay attention. The sound of the quantity formula was heard. Following that, a wave of dense and pure energy emerged. Lu Ming sat cross-legged and began to absorb this energy to cultivate. This kind of energy was extremely pure. Lu Ming could easily refine it and transform it into his own divine power. In his dantian, the divine fire formed by the 5 types of divine-grade divine power continued to grow. Those 5 divine flames were originally equivalent to first-level heavenly deities. At this moment, they were rapidly approaching second-level heavenly deities. A few days later, the flames of the 5 divine flames suddenly skyrocketed, successfully charging to second-level celestial deity. The upgrade continued. 10 days later, the 5 divine flames assailed the 3rd-level celestial deity realm again. This speed was extremely shocking. This meant that Lu Ming was constantly breaking through realms. If he were to cultivate normally, he would definitely need to spend a lot of time. A few hundred years would be considered little, and a few thousand years or even 10,000 years would be considered normal. This was the advantage of having the measure formula. The 5 divine flames were still rising, continuously approaching the 4th-level celestial deity realm. However, when it rose to the peak of the 3rd-level celestial deity realm, it no longer had any energy. The energy that emerged from the quantity formula had been completely refined. Is there any more? Lu Ming said to the quantity word formula with eager eyes. You should be satisfied to have so much energy in a year. The quantity formula said. Lu Ming was speechless. However, after thinking about it, he felt that he should be satisfied. If he didn't have the extreme cold gem, even if he used the quantity formula to refine the energy of a star's core, it would still take hundreds of years. Now he could achieve it in a year. Lu Ming should be satisfied. Cultivation base breakthrough. Please continue reading on Oxville. Omicron. However, there's still a lot of energy left in the freezing gem. It can also neutralize the energy of many star cores. Just wait. The quantity formula said. Lu Ming nodded and immediately started to cultivate. This underground space was very remote. It was already in the cold nether forbidden ground, so almost no one came here. Ever since Lan Ling left, no one else came to the place. Lu Ming was happy to be idle and he was focused on cultivating. When the quantity formula had not transferred energy to him, Lu Ming had been focused on comprehending the secret skill. When there was energy, Lu Ming would refine it. Every few months, the quantity formula would give him a stream of energy. Just like that, another 2 years passed. Lu Ming had been here for more than 3 years. In the past 3 years, Lu Ming's cultivation level had improved rapidly. In the beginning, The divine fire condensed from the 5 types of divine-grade divine energy had all been raised to the same level as the ruler's divine energy and inextinguishable sword force. Then, the 9 types of divine energy broke through together. Just a few days ago, Lu Ming had successfully broken through to 5th-tier celestial god. The 9 types of divine energy in his body had all broken through to the 5th-level celestial deity realm. This caused Lu Ming's combat strength to skyrocket. With my current combat strength, it shouldn't be difficult for me to deal with the white-haired young man. Lu Ming muttered, secretly estimating his ability. The white-haired young man was a half-step divine king and his divine power was about 60 to 70% awakened. 3 years ago, Lu Ming was definitely not this person's match. However, Lu Ming was confident that he could defeat this person now. Lu Ming estimated that his current ability should be equivalent to a half-step divine king. The degree of awakening of his divine power was about 80 to 90% of the geniuses. The comparison of strength here referred to the geniuses who controlled divine-grade divine power. Without divine-grade divine power, there was no such thing as awakening divine power. However, Lu Ming was probably no match for the powerful indigo spirit. My attack-type divine skill is still at the 7th level. If I can break through to the 8th level, it'll be even stronger. Lu Ming pondered. However, such strength was already considered to be at the top among the Heaven's Pride experts who had entered Star Moon Ancient City. After all, there were only a few top talents who had awakened the origin divine power factor. Unfortunately, the energy of the chilling gem has been used up. Otherwise I could continue to try. Lu Ming muttered and shook his head. He knew that he was being greedy. Lu Ming flew over. Many people glanced at him and ignored him. Although Lu Ming had passed through the sky gate and many people knew him, his cultivation level was very low. These people did not take it to heart. Lu Ming did not mind and looked forward. There was a person sitting cross-legged on each of the stone platforms, and a layer of light enveloped each person. Brother, why is there only one person on each stone platform? Can't the others go up? Lu Ming asked a young man who looked simple and honest. You just got here, right? The honest-looking young man glanced at him. Yes, yes, Lu Ming said with a smile. It said that this stone platform was used by ancient deities during the early stages of the Heavenly Palace to observe the Myriad god cliff's cultivation. Ancient deities were all extremely huge, which is why this stone platform is so big. And each stone platform can only accommodate one person at a time. If there are too many people, they will be bounced off. The honest-looking young man explained. I see. Lu Ming came to a realization. No wonder there was only one person on each stone platform. Now that the stone platform has been occupied by them, won't we have no chance? Lu Ming asked again. Of course there's a chance, but everything must be fought for with strength. The honest-looking young man said. Fight for it with your own strength? What do you mean? Lu Ming asked. This stone platform was set up with a powerful restriction in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. It operates according to a certain rule. If a person practices on a stone platform, the formation of the stone platform will protect him. The honest-looking young man explained. Lu Ming nodded. There was a layer of light on the people on the stone platform. It was the power of the formation's protection. With the protection of the formation you can cultivate in peace. Others can't attack you. However, this protection has a time limit. After 3 months, this protection will disappear. Of course, it will only disappear for a short period of time. It will only last for 1 day. After 1 day, the protective power of the formation will appear again. Therefore, today is the day to fight for the stone platform. The honest-looking young man said. Lu Ming shouted in a low voice and used the 9 heavenly Kuan Peng technique. His divine power condensed into a Kuan Peng. With a flap of its wings, his figure suddenly accelerated and dodged the attacks. In the next moment, he landed on the stone platform. So fast. Many people's hearts trembled. They actually didn't have the time to make a move just now. After that, many people sighed. It seemed that they wouldn't have a share of this stone platform. Once someone stepped onto the stone platform, The others would no longer be able to compete. Seeing that Lu Ming had stepped onto the stone platform, the battle in the air stopped and everyone's eyes fell on Lu Ming. Stepping onto the stone platform was only the first step. In order to obtain the right to cultivate on the stone platform, one had to defeat the person who had cultivated before. Unless the other party voluntarily withdrew after the 3 years were up. Lu Ming, it's you. The Qin clan's paragon looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. Of course it's me. It's time to settle the score with you all for besieging me that day. Lu Ming said coldly. Settle accounts? Hee, just you? The Qin clan's paragon sneered as a powerful aura emanated from his body. 9th level celestial deity. The cultivation of this Qin clan's Heaven's Pride expert was at the 9th level of the heavenly deity realm. Furthermore, this time, he had already cultivated on this stone platform for half a year. The degree of his divine power awakening had increased by a lot and had already reached 50%. Lu Ming wanted to settle scores with him? You're looking for death. Boom. Lu Ming could not be bothered to waste his breath on him. He took a step forward and a huge aura rose. All the divine power in his body exploded. The divine power on the surface of his body jumped and burned like flames. After that, the battle formula was activated. However, Lu Ming did not use his ancient god body. With Lu Ming's current cultivation, he did not need the ancient god body to deal with a 9th-tier celestial god with a 50% awakened divine power. A terrifying aura rushed toward the other party like an avalanche. The other party's pupils suddenly widened and he exclaimed, Your aura? How is this possible? The Qin family's youth was frightened. How could a 5th-level celestial deity have such a terrifying aura? You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.